This is You the People. Each week, we three Canadians talk about you, the people. Your politics, your political system, your 46-minute poorly edited diatribes, and yes, your ongoing election. With me, as always, Corey Hogan, Stephen Carter. Guys, what's going on?
And your Washington Wizards basketball team.
Okay, listen, there's... No.
No, we got to talk about this.
Why?
We got to talk about this. We've got two of the most toxic players in the NBA changing places.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a nothing burger, which is literally what the zero on Russell Westbrook's jersey represents, because he is a zero. By the way, he is a Gilbert Arenas. Carter would agree. He is literally replacing Gilbert Arenas, who also wore Agent Zero, and as toxic. So the Wizards are going back a decade. Congratulations, Corey.
It was a good decade.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out really well. I'm really excited about it personally. I think it's going to be a really solid move for both teams. It's a win-win, as they say in the basketball parlance.
Hey, and Stephen, out of curiosity, who is John Wall going to be playing with now in Houston?
He's going to be playing with the other players. There's another one.
No, that is incorrect. John Wall does not play with any other players. That was a trick question. He plays by himself. That's why he got traded.
Okay, well, this is good. This is good for me to know. I'm pleased to have learned this lesson. I thought Russell Westbrook was the toxic player.
Oh, they're both toxic
Steven.
players. They're trading places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen.
That was the whole preamble here.
Okay, well, you know what? You're confusing the hell out of me, and that's just
Well,
the way
so
it's going to
as Zain knows, it's been my long dream to create an advanced basketball statistic, and I've wanted to create the player toxicity rating, which is based on the number of arrests you have, the number of teammates who have asked to be traded because of you, really quantifiable things where we could land this. Both of those guys break the scale. It's great. It's fantastic. If we could somehow get Rondo involved in a three-way trade, I think we could break the world.
Add Lance Stevenson, and then here you go. You've got. And Carter was going to say that. Sorry, I stepped on your toes there with that Lance Stevenson reference, Carter. Can I talk about the only story we should be talking about? What I want to devote this entire podcast to, which is where did these monoliths in Utah and Romania come from? Can we just talk about the only story that really matters?
Yeah, that's really it. I think it's Trump's last-ditch effort to convince the world that there are aliens and he should stay in office in order to hang on to his power. I think that's what he's doing right now. So that's it. That's the big play.
Well, I'm pretty certain that's just where all of those Trump votes were disposed, into these giant trash cans in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, that works. That works for me.
Yeah.
So no theories on where it's from?
Yeah, some stupid artist put it out there, and then some stupid artist took it away, and then a bunch of other stupid artists made like replicas of it.
Yeah, it's
like memeing in the real world, Zain. It's not complicated.
Yeah, it's just we figured these things out.
A lot of animosity towards artists.
Not just artists. I mean,
I love artists. I love modern art.
The guys who did the crop circles were shitheads too. I mean, like this is the way it works. These people are shitheads. Everything will work its way out.
I bet you it's aliens. Let's move it on to our headlines. No one brought up aliens, so I had to. Our first headline comes to us from Vanity Fair. It says, Trump insists that he's still going to be president as White House landlord asks for forwarding address for security deposit. This is not a joke. This is an actual headline. Yes, indeed, Donald Trump is being issued papers, and they need to know where he's going next, and he is refusing to say. Corey Hogan, we know that this is Donald Trump's MO, but the fact that they're asking for a forwarding address for a security deposit is just amazing. It is pinnacle.
There is a security deposit if you're president of the United States?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's a refund of his security deposit. The article does not say. It's very vague, almost like everyone assumes that there is a security deposit. I don't know if it's a damage deposit.
But it's like the White House. Do they give you like 4 keys and say, well, if you lose one, you got to get it recut?
Yeah, or if you like paint the walls gold, you need to like paint it back afterwards.
Exactly.
Carter, any tips for someone moving out of their place?
I mean, the hard part that everybody always forgets about is cleaning up the washrooms and stuff. You got to leave these places pristine, right? So I expect to see the Donald in cleaning up those toilets. He's gotta earn his keep. Gotta earn his keep.
This is a man who was a big fan of low-flow shower heads, as you recall earlier. This is a guy who spent a lot of his presidency, an inordinate amount of his time of his presidency, talking about low-flow shower heads.
Complaining about toilets that don't have good throughput. Yeah.
We've learned too much about this man.
let me go to the next one from the Independent. Trump declares Twitter national security threat after hashtag Diaper Dawn trend follows his meltdown. So just I don't even know. This is
okay.
Okay, so the platform that has supported, scaffolded, made his presidency is now a national security threat after. By the way, Diaper Dawn is amazing. I just think it is it's excellent. Starts trending across the United States.
Oh, the photograph was fantastic. Did you guys see the photo that brought forward the idea that he was wearing diapers? His ass was enormous. Like, he was wearing some very ill-fitting pants, and it did look horrible. So I think he earned it, and he should be really pleased that he's been trending on Twitter so much. That should make him very happy.
Well, let me just start with I don't approve of giving somebody the nickname Diaper Dawn. It's kind of shitty given how terrible he is on like 100 other metrics.
It's kind of shitty.
Kind of shitty.
Yeah, it's good.
But his reaction to it really is the kind of reaction that sort of encourages you to continue giving nicknames like that. I mean, the fact that this guy would react and the way he did it, so he wants Section 230 eliminated or else he's not going to fund the U.S. military. Like he's just lashing out in 100 different directions at this point. So I don't know. It's like, how do Republicans continue to stand with this guy who says they called me mean names on Twitter, so I'm not going to fund the troops? Like, how does that pass any kind of muster?
Corey, it's only been a week since if you recall, since he's asked for firing squads to come back. So just so you know, I just want to let you know that he is he's surgical for what he's asking for in his final days. An amazing story. And speaking of amazing stories, this one comes to us from NBC News. Our next headline: Trump hasn't ruled out firing Attorney General Barr. Unfucking believable. His only ally that he has, the guy who takes all of his marching orders, and yet he's not ruled out firing him. I mean, he is consistent, Donald Trump. He is consistent with his lack of loyalty to anyone except himself. Carter, naturally, I go to you with that segue.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being Bill Barr and having kissed this guy's hairy fat ass that's often clad in diapers for the better part of 2 years. And this is your payback, right? You have found exactly zero evidence of significant voter fraud that would overturn the election. You merely say that, and now you are on the verge of being fired with 35 days left? This is fantastic. I mean, it's perfect payback for Barr. I'm quite thrilled that he's getting this type of payback.
Corey?
Well, both of them only have the job for 7 weeks, and Trump is saying maybe in a couple of weeks I'll fire him. Like, this is the most petulant, childish thing ever. And I do try to imagine what that next step is. So he fires Barr, and then there's an acting AG, and that acting AG with 2 weeks says, oh, surprise, I actually found there's a ton of election malfeasance. Like, what is the end game here? This whole thing is the stupidest fucking thing.
Are you telling me he hasn't thought this through?
Well, my concern is he has, and it's just bad thinking. You know, it's like he thinks this is actually the Hail Mary that's going to work for him. But look, like Jeff Sessions, like the AG before him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Jeff Sessions, who he encouraged Tommy Tuberville to take down and then, supported. I mean, this guy has no loyalty to anybody. Why anybody has loyalty to him, I mean, it's just beyond me. Beyond me.
It's crazy.
I'm going to our final headline, and this is an interesting one. From Politico, Trump's post-election cash grab floods funds to a new PAC. Over $200 million since Election Day. In less than a month, Donald Trump has raised. This really found no home in our segments going forward, so I wanted to discuss it right now, which is, holy crap, Donald Trump's grifting has worked. I mean, these alarmist emails that he sent have raised over $200 million since Election Day. We've both been calling him out. Corey, I know we did an entire segment of you reading some of the beautiful emails that you received when you subscribed to Donald Trump's email list, but $200 million now being funneled to non-legal resources, of course, as expected. Any thoughts on this, and any thoughts on perhaps the consequences of something like this? Carter, I'll go to you first.
You lose your damage deposit, and you got to find a way to make that money back somewhere. So,
yeah.
Is there a greater indictment of Trump not being a billionaire than him trying to just, raise a couple $100 million more just on his way out the door? Like how much of this is going to wind up in the Trump family bank accounts? Like it strikes me as extremely fraudulent and they're grifters. We've said it on this podcast how many times that they're just simply grifters.
Let's move it on to our first segment. Our first segment, you have to pardon the panic. I want to talk about pardons, guys. And we talked about it last week. We did a bit of a drive-by. We had some hypothetical speculation, but now it's being reported that Trump is mulling preemptive pardons. This is what we discussed last time for up to 20 allies, even as Republicans balk at it. And so this is quite the story. Trump is considering preemptively pardoning as many 20 aides and associates, including family members who believe are offering legal reprieves to his friends and families, which could backfire. The question I have is now strategic. And I'll start with you, Stephen, which is what should Republicans do in this situation? We know what Trump is going to do. We said last week we'd be surprised if he didn't go down this path. Well, he clearly is now. Republicans are balking, but they're not telling him to stop. Is this the right approach right now? And what is the right approach? And let's maybe couch it in the era that they kind of live in, which is Trump is still president, but he's out his way out the door. Do they back him? Do they tell him to stop? What are they supposed to do in this situation?
Well, normally what would happen is that people with morals and ethics would step in and do the morally or the right thing to do. And unfortunately, these Republicans don't seem to be using that as their criteria for making decisions. So I think what they should be doing is if they're not going to act in the moral construct, if they're not going to do what's right just for the sake of doing what's right, then they need to start doing what's right for the sake of avoiding Donald Trump being their guy again in 2024. He's basically said straight up that he's going to run in 2024. That I think is one of the reasons he's trying to raise so much money out of this fundraising that you mentioned earlier. So if they don't want Donald Trump to be the president, if they don't want 4 more years of being defined by this racist lunatic, then they need to stand up to him and start tearing him down. The fact that they weren't successful to tear him down in 2015, 2016, doesn't mean that they shouldn't try again from 2020 to 2023. If this guy is their standard bearer, then this is the Republican Party, and I fear for the United States. So if they're not going to act morally, if they're not going to act for that which is right, then they have to at least act for the preservation of their party and stand up to him now. He's not for he's not really the president anymore. He's done. So start fighting him now and start redefining the party as soon as possible.
Corey, what would your advice to Republicans be if you're advising a Mitch McConnell, if you're advising a Lindsey Graham or someone within the Republican Party right now? They have balked at this. They haven't told him to stop. Is it time to tell him to stop, or do you just let this one slide?
That time was years ago, but the reason why they're not inclined to do it right now is those Georgia special elections. They don't want to lose them if Trump voters stay home. So they're going to continue doing what they've been doing for the next couple of weeks, which is they're going to say, well, I can see why he would want to. I disapprove, but I get it. Democrats might otherwise go on a witch hunt or something. And then they're going to hope both the Trump super base and decent non-corruption endorsing Americans just leave them alone. All they are trying to do is skate right now. And if they can skate past January 5th, all the better as far as they're concerned. Now, I think that's really unfortunate because I do believe he might actually not do it if he met resistance at this point, because he would be worried about losing all of these allies he needs to survive the next bit as a private citizen. Because if the entire party turns against him, if the Republican Party says, no, too far, Donald, and he does find himself in jeopardy, it's going to be hard for him to claim it's because he's such an important political candidate, right? So this would be a nice time to have Republicans stand up, but I think as long as those 2 Senate seats are there, they just ain't going to do it, at least not in numbers that matter.
Corey, I want to pick up on what you just said. Do you feel like Trump's next chapter as a private citizen, which might immediately transition to presidential candidate, like we don't know just yet, but let's just say his next chapter, do you feel like from what he's telegraphed he's going to do, and with 7 weeks left, he's going to alienate the party? Do you think they're going to turn on him as soon as the clock hits noon on the 20th? Or do you feel like it is going to still be a tepid, maybe slightly chilly relationship with Donald Trump? Or do you think it's a warm embrace?
I think you'll have some Republicans which choose door number one, far more choosing door number two, and probably about the same as number two choosing door number three. Some will see this as an opportunity to start walking away slowly, maybe just not, sending Trump to voicemail when he calls, like a sensible person would.
Like we both do to Carter, yeah.
Like I have a special ringtone. Yeah. I have a ringtone, so I don't even need to look down anymore.
Never answer the damn phone.
Well, he's the only person that ever leaves a voicemail. Might be a factor of his age, but that's fine. Keep going.
Some will embrace him because they will see those other guys leaving him and say, this is my chance to pick up that Donald Trump base. And a few of the ones that were borderline principled, obviously never principled because, save for Mitt Romney and a couple of others on a couple of occasions, they haven't stood up to the man. Those ones will say, good riddance, he's gone. And they'll feel a little more free to do that, and they'll feel a little less exposed.
Carter, do you agree with that analysis, that that's what might end up happening with Trump and his relationship with the Senate and the House Republicans after he leaves?
I just think that, the way Corey's describing it, it imagines that Trump thinks that loyalty and collecting of assets the way that a normal politician does actually matters. And what we've seen from Trump's actions is he thinks he's the big bully in the schoolyard, and he just collects sycophants who walk along behind him, like those two nameless guys from Back to the Future who used to follow Biff around. That's the Senate and that's the House, right? Like, that's where the Republicans are. He's the big bully in the middle, and the Senate and the House are just following around saying, oh, I think you should punch him in the head. Yeah, you're doing great. They have no real thoughts. And so he doesn't give a shit, as evidenced by the way he treated Lindsey Graham, or the way he's treated Marco Rubio, the way he's treated Lieutenant Cruz, the way he's treating William Barr. These people are getting fucked over because ultimately Trump just doesn't care, because there'll be another sycophant right behind him, ready to kiss his big fat diapered ass.
I think Carter alone, with sheer willpower, is keeping Diaper Dawn trending.
Oh, it's all me. It's all me.
Corey, on this list of prospective pardons are some unsurprising names, right? Don Jr., Eric Trump, Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, and of course the infamous Rudy Giuliani, amongst others. We'll get to him in a second. If you're the Democrats right now, there is almost a gene in Democrats to overreact and start screaming and shouting at every injustice, as they have during the Trump presidency. Is this one that you would, if you were advising Pelosi and Schumer and the DCCC, would you say, yeah, we need to get loud about Trump's pardons? We need to ensure he doesn't do them? Or is your focus now on ensuring Biden's transition and saying this is actually something we have to show some restraint on? What's your strategic advice right now with Trump's pardoning or prospective pardoning of some of his associates?
Well, these pardons will make them look guilty of something, right? And I think the mistake Democrats would make is getting too outraged by it, because it would essentially reinforce Trump's narrative that you needed to pardon these people because these Democrats are unhinged. They're too out of control. They'd absolutely go for blood after the fact. You don't even know what it is. I think what you need in a moment like this is cold fury, and more cold than fury. More, well, that's exactly why we got rid of him. This guy was terrible. Now let's move on with our lives. And almost make it look like, even in this moment, you have no interest in relitigating these things. Kind of take out all of the evidence that he would otherwise be able to point to, that, because what he's going to do if the Democrats go to 11 on the old amplifier here is he's going to say, see, I told you, see, look at them right now. Everything they're saying here, this is exactly why I needed to pardon them. So, don't play into that. Let him sit out there and twist as the few honest Republicans and a still relatively neutral news media tear him to pieces for it. Legal scholars debate for days about whether this was entirely improper and opening him up to other legal jeopardy. Let them do it. Let the people who have traditionally been his allies or seen as neutral parties in America do your dirty work, because any you do is just going to reinforce his excuse for why he gave the pardon in the first place.
Carter, what do you think?
I totally agree with Corey. I think that the purpose of the pardons is to protect his family, right? Like that's the story and that's the narrative that he's going to put out there. Anything you do to contribute to that, like you don't want giant crowds, for example, chanting "lock him up." That would be bad because then it's justified why he, in fact, had to use this extraordinary power to pardon people for crimes that haven't even been imagined yet. We haven't even investigated, right? So no one doubts that they've committed crimes, by the way. Everybody knows that they've committed crimes. The Don himself knows that these crimes have been committed. They're just trying to figure out how to best manage this. I think that this actually is a gift to the Democrats. Each one of these pardons is a gift, because the last thing you need to be doing is going after Donald Trump and his family immediately after they've served as president. It is a terrible, terrible precedent to go after people who have served in the administration before you. So I would just leave them. If there are underlings that need to, that have committed crimes and need to go to jail, then that's a different calculus. But going after the principal and his family is pretty poorly imagined. Giuliani, I'm all in. Let's go for Giuliani. But again, I think that the federal pardons aren't going to protect him from the various laws that he is. Although it looks like the biggest law that Rudy Giuliani is breaking right now is that of public decency. His farting on camera yesterday, it sets a new tone for who the man is.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Between the diapers and the farting, this is a
shitty episode. Oh, but
Four answers in a row. Corey, often we have to make political hay out of raw ingredients. Let's talk about that. Pardons plus Georgia. Are you doing anything if you're the Democrats there? Are you trying to make this about Trump? Are you using the pardons as a wedge to try to defeat Loeffler and Perdue? Are you, I know you're saying don't get too loud and enraged, but it's weird because you've got the Senate hanging in the balance in some ways. And this is an egregious act by an outgoing president. So maybe I'll add that dynamic to it and see if it changes your answer or adds a bit of nuance to what your thinking might be.
It doesn't fundamentally change it. I still think it would be a mistake to get too loud and too outraged. I still think the cold fury is where you go and you say, you know what, this is exactly why we got to turn these guys out. And the fact that none of them seem to have a problem with it, point at Republicans, that's exactly why they should not be in control of the Senate. But again, going too far the other way, I think just risks the justification as to why he did it. If you find that it's a winner in Georgia, even after I said it doesn't really change my thinking much, let me just say it might be worth it then. If you somehow came to the conclusion through polling or what have you that by getting really loud and angry and hitting levels that are seldom seen in American politics on the outrage scale, if that can get you 2 Senate seats, yeah, I would take that, frankly, over Donald Trump being able to, I'd let him justify it if it meant I got 2 Senate seats because I could get a lot more done in the next 2 years. But that would be the only thing that would change my calculation if there was polling that gave me some strong assurances of that.
Carter, you've been a big fan of leveraging cabinet secretaries and prospective picks for Georgia, dangling certain items. Do you dangle pardons at all in Georgia?
I don't think so. I think that, I think that the issue is very challenging, and I don't think that it impacts people's lives. I think that you really want to start. I mean, the one thing that I do like is them going after Perdue and Loeffler on their insider trading, because that's not something that everyday people get the opportunity to do. They don't, everyday Georgians weren't buying up, which Pfizer. I think it was Pfizer that Perdue was buying when he had insider knowledge that their vaccine was doing well. Those types of things I think you need to focus on. The pardons question, it just isn't going to impact people's lives. And I think that those of us that practice politics need to keep in mind that it's about people's lives, not about the game of winning or losing necessarily.
And the final question I have on this is around Biden and what his focus should be on. So if he's in if the DCCC is not focusing on this, I'm assuming Biden is not focusing on this. Is there any hay to be made with this pardon story, Corey? Is there any retroactive actions that Biden should be thinking about, and any sort of angling he should be making around this, or just outright ignore it in your mind?
I think you ignore it. The pardon, powers that the President of the United States has, the powers of clemency, those are in the Constitution. It's not as though he can say, let's go do some pardon reform, because that would require, by and large, a constitutional amendment. You can change how you yourself use pardons as president, and maybe you pledge to do that, but I wouldn't do anything more than that. I just don't know that it's worth the fight.
Carter, what's your take?
Yeah, I just don't think that there's any particular gain to be made. The power of the pardon is absolute, and it is in the Constitution. And Americans, for whatever reason, seem to, well, I guess so do Canadians. No, people don't like changing their Constitution. It is written, it is the thing, and it's very conflict ridden to try and change it. Now, the Americans have done more amendments to theirs maybe than anybody else, but I don't see
not
this.
even close.
Not even close.
Not even more than us.
Oh, sure, more than us. Don't start with me.
Oh, come on.
Okay, well, I will grant you that we rewrote the whole thing from the ground up, but there you go.
We've had so many. The Canadian Constitution, the big things require all of the provinces to agree, but the small things can just be changed by relatively few players. So. There you go, America, your Canadian constitutional history lesson for today.
Yeah, and I know they needed it, especially after all that after all that diaper content by you, Carter.
That's good stuff. That was good content. You're welcome.
I want to move it on to our next segment. Our next segment, you got 46 minutes with commercials. There's two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about Rudy Giuliani and the Michigan House Oversight Committee. That went viral because, of course, he brought his star witness out there. And then I want to talk about this diatribe, this speech by Donald Trump, ultimately repeating his greatest hits, elongating them, doing the Stephen Carter thing, i.e. filling time, and turning what should have been a 3-minute Twitter video into 46 minutes of poorly edited hot takes. Carter, give me your take on the mind of a president who's giving 46-minute videos that CNN is refusing to air, that major news sites are refusing to post, that he's posting directly to his audience. Give me your just take on what you saw, and are we just numb to it to the point where it had no impact on you?
I'm not numb to it. I mean, I certainly watched it and I was shocked. I was shocked that, I don't know which room he was in, but basically the president of the United States would make a case to shift the focus, from an election, from the democratic process to how he was in some way aggrieved. For him to do it himself, right? Like for him to double down and to actually own this and to own this claim of fraud and voter fraud, and to make this type of case and to point to the data that he clearly didn't understand what he was even looking at, was just embarrassing. It was hard to watch. Even the short form of it was hard to watch. I mean, I think the first video I watched of it was only 1 minute and 40 seconds, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So it wasn't great. It wasn't a great tactical choice, but it doesn't matter. He's undermining the results of the election. He's undermining the American democracy. And I don't think it's over yet. We've been talked on this podcast that we expected violence by this stage, and how lucky we are that the violence hasn't yet happened. He needs to concede. He needs to then walk off the stage, because the violence still could happen. And that's the part that is particularly terrifying, because he is bringing forward, I think, tragic ideas that could that are undermining the state of American democracy.
Carter, you've just leaned into my next question line, and Corey, maybe I'll throw this over to you around your initial reactions to what you saw, and then to Carter's point around what are the ramifications of Trump's actions 7 weeks before he has to leave, in whatever way, but how does it, and what is he potentially causing here as a ripple effect to his words at this stage?
Yeah, Donald Trump seems like the guy who prints out his tweets physically and then waves them at the people in his immediate orbit and then puts them in manila folders saying, see, I saw this tweet that said, that the ballots were stolen and put in this ditch. And see, I saw this other tweet that looks like Michigan people were not allowed to cast votes. And this other one that said that North Korea brought in secret ballots in Maine, which is actually something that Roger Stone said, by the way, which is effing crazy. Or maybe the most outrageous of all, see, I saw this tweet that says that the Americans amend their constitution more than anybody else, which is totally indefensible when compared to the 34 amendments Canada has given to its constitution since 1867.
Well, thank you so much.
It's just all madness. It's crazy. So, the overwhelming feeling I had, and I admittedly was not the audience, was this was a man who was just grasping at straws. None of this makes any sense. None of this holds together. This all sounds very dark and foreboding, but there wasn't anything there. The little clip that he put on Twitter was dumb, and then I saw on YouTube it was there, and I watched a few minutes of it, but I didn't get through it all. Maybe there was a kernel of genius in the middle. Who the hell would know? Because who in their sensible mind is going to watch 46 minutes of that nonsense? So I just don't think that, if this was his big swing, well, strike three, bud. I mean, there's just no way that what he did there was going to do anything except speak to an increasingly small base of people that no longer includes Barr, for Christ's sake. This, and actually, if I can sort of back it up, this was clearly in reaction to Barr saying that there was nothing there. It was recorded a week earlier. He threw it out right after there. The reason it probably wasn't put out in the week before is people knew it was dumb. Somebody around him had some level of adolescence, I won't call it adulthood, and they knew that this was not going to do the job he needed to do. But he impulsively put it out in a reaction to his AG saying, I found nothing that would overturn the election.
Corey, could this, to Carter's point, result in violence? Could this result in the Trump cohort voters, whatever? Could there be ripple effects here? And I'm not saying we're waiting for it, but we haven't seen it. This guy's he's kicking and screaming. And I think he's kicking harder and screaming louder than we've seen him before. Is this worrying at this point?
It could be the straw that broke the camel's back. Any of these things could be the moment where you create a spark, and that spark could create a fire. But it's not. Let's put it this way. If this was his speech on election night, I would be very, very alarmed. But at this point, he's lost. He's like 1-42 in the courts. He has been beaten so senselessly on these things. If you're a reasonable person looking at these things, you're starting to be like, oh, I don't know about that, Donald. And the more he gets loud as the courts are weighing in the other way, and even Republicans in these states who are running some of these states are saying, no, these results are fine. It's tough for me to imagine that a critical mass of Americans are going to take to the streets. Now, like I said, could be the straw that broke the camel's back for some. But do you think this changed do you think this changed the trajectory of America? It didn't even change the trajectory of my, Twitter stream that evening. It was just it was so non-news because he's such a spent force at this point.
Yeah, but I think that misses the point, Corey. I mean, the point is that you've got the undermining of American democracy, and you've got fewer and fewer people believing in the democratic outcome of the election. What happens if, through some sort of miracle, the Democrats win both of the seats in Georgia? Do you think people aren't going to be up in arms, shocked that this is happening? If the Republicans win, then life is normal, and Mitch gets to stay the Senate Majority Leader. But if it's not the expected outcome, I think that people are really starting to question whether or not this democracy is working for them, and that's the part that freaks me out. And I've seen, again, one of the challenges and one of the opportunities of social media is that we get to see more than we want to see. We get to see these people, and they are a lot more crazy than we expect.
I want to transition this not from Trump to something else, which should be the headline every single week we talk, which is COVID and the COVID deaths that we're seeing in America, more so than ever before, in terms of the case count going up constantly. And in light of that, we're now seeing some political developments where Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have shifted and are now agreeing to compromise with McConnell and McCarthy on the stimulus bill, the $900 billion, close to $1 trillion stimulus. In the last couple of days, in fact, inching closer in the last couple of hours, they're starting to sing the tune that we were very much used to in the Obama era of compromise. The spirit of compromise, the spirit of bipartisanship, words we haven't heard in a long time. Carter, I want to go to you on this. You know, there is political gain to be had for Schumer and Pelosi to at least look like some form of adults in the room who have legislative power, knowing that Biden isn't president yet. But is this the right move for them to, to start perhaps shifting away from some elements of what the left flank of their party wanted in a stimulus bill, less money for business, more money for people, so to speak? Or do you feel like this is something they had to do when the ramifications are less political and more real right now with the president who just doesn't care?
Well, I talked a little bit about right off the bat, or a few minutes ago, about doing that which was right. And I was talking about what the Republicans were, what I expected from them. I expect the same from the Democrats. And what's right is getting money into people's hands. It may not be everything that you were hoping to get, but something is better than nothing. And there's not a tremendous amount of political gain to be had. On top of that, there is only kind of a binary outcome from what's going to happen in Georgia. You either win the seats or you lose the seats. If you win the seats, then you're able to correct what you've done here with the Senate Republicans this time. You can, correct this by passing a new bill early in the new year. If you lose the seats, well, welcome to the next 2 years. You may as well get used to working with the lunatic across the aisle. Mitch McConnell may be lots of things, but he is not stupid. He knows exactly what he wants. He's going to get what he wants. So you better, get on board and start negotiating and get whatever wins you can for the people of the United States and your president. So I think that this is a fine time to step up. There's no real cost. It's just maybe not everything you want for 2 more months until such time as you're able to get different legislation through when theoretically you have control of the presidency and both houses in Congress.
Corey, is there any risk here if you're Schumer or Pelosi, maybe shifting, not getting the best deal that you want, the deal that you're intransigent on? I mean, this is, of course, the deal you thought you could kill when you control the Senate and were able to kind of get a new package in. But now that seems like it's hanging in the balance and won't be clear, is this the right political play for them?
Well, the worse COVID gets, the stronger the impetus for action, and it's as bad as it's ever been. More people are dying than ever before. More people have COVID than ever before in the United States. So let's not look for something very elaborate when it may be as simple as that. And I suspect it is on most levels as simple as that. And Carter's right. Doing what's right for people is the right move. Now, the angle that hasn't been discussed is that in the Senate race itself, there is a need to look reasonable. There is a need to show that the Democrats will not just be this ideological force from the left, because that is the claim that is being levied against them by the Republicans in Georgia right now. So to say, yeah, no, look, we're willing to compromise. Yeah, no, it's fine. We're reasonable people. That can help you in Georgia, in addition to being the right thing to do, in addition to there being this strong impetus for action. And Carter's absolutely right. If you win, do something better, do something more along the lines of your ideology. But you may lose. And in that case, why not go into those negotiations with McConnell saying, see, look, we figured it out on COVID. We can figure it out on half a dozen other things here. We won't see eye to eye all of the time. But look at this new dawn here. And that, by the way, may help your president more than anything, because that may help get some Senate confirmations. Corey, you guys both brought up this sentiment of doing the right thing. And it kind of makes me shift a bit to another story around what is in politics known as the primal sin, which is hypocrisy in some ways. And it is, in this case, you're seeing politicians in California and across the country drawing scorn for what would be unthinkable last year, dining out, spending Thanksgiving with relatives, flying out of state. This is seeming to be its own little political story of politicians, including, in this case, Governor Newsom and the mayor of San Francisco, telling people to stay home,
but they themselves not maintaining some of these protocols, dining out, going to birthday bashes, flying out of state, etc. I have a question for you around that. Like, is this modeling of behavior that we see from our politicians, how much impact do you think it has? I'm really curious in terms of, do people actually take moral lessons from our politicians? Because, the charge of hypocrisy is always that, oh, look, you're not doing what you're saying, you're a leader and you should. Do people actually use these folks to model behavior? Like, I'm genuinely curious. And then B, I want to discuss hypocrisy in a second. I did not intend to go here, but you guys both brought up this concept of doing the right thing, so let's do it. Corey, jump in first.
I don't know. I don't know any statistics on whether politicians are still seen as role models. I suspect there's very few parents these days pointing to them and saying, right. Be like the president. But I take exception with your entire framing here. Since when is hypocrisy the primal sin of politics? Hypocrisy is not the primal sin. I mean, hypocrisy is the human condition. People are hypocrites all throughout their life in every single walk and every single way. And by the way, the notion of doing one thing and saying another thing in politics.
It's politics?
That's politics. I mean, you've basically described the bad thing about politics being the politics of politics. It's just
getting caught for hypocrisy and
no, hypocrisy. I disagree with that. It's backing down and being ashamed of hypocrisy. That's the cardinal sin of politics. If Donald Trump has shown us anything, it's that you can plow through on any ridiculousness. Where you really get yourself into trouble is when you reverse course.
Okay, so thank you for that. I actually, you're convincing me slowly but surely. Carter, your take on this, the hypocrisy, whether you agree with my framing or not.
Nobody does.
Yeah, okay, well, I did 2 minutes ago.
I think I do. I mean, there's a piece of what Corey is saying that is absolutely true. That's just annoying to me because every time he's right, it does bother me. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit frustrating. But then there's also a sense of, fuck you that kind of comes into it too, right? Like when I'm not allowed to do something but you're doing it anyways, I get a little cranky about it. Like for example, I mean, I used the Pfizer example and Purdue, buying stock, when he knew that it was going to go up, because he had insider knowledge and Loeffner selling all of her stocks, when she knew that they were going to go down. That pisses me off, and I think it pisses off the general population as well. We expect people, like we expect our politicians to eat tuna fish sandwiches because we eat tuna fish sandwiches. We don't expect them to be dining on the fine silverware sometimes, and that's what these people have been doing. They've been telling us to behave one way while they behave completely differently. And I do think it's going to hurt. I think it's going to hurt because people are dying. Like maybe they'd be able to steer right into this. But I think it's going to hurt Newsom more than it ever would hurt Trump, right? We don't have high expectations for Trump. We don't have
his political brand is different. Is that what you're saying?
He's told us, fuck you all, right? Like that's what he's told us. So we know that about Trump. Newsom's said he's on our side and he's fucked us. Right. And he's flying, and these other mayors are flying all over the place and doing all these other things. And, these people are hurting themselves more. If it was Donald Trump, it wouldn't matter because he'd be on to the next problem. But when it's these guys, it sticks a little bit deeper because they've told us that there's someone different.
What do you make of that argument, Corey?
It's not hypocrisy. They're not being hurt because of hypocrisy. Yeah. In most of those situations, if they had said, I think you should do this, but I'm not going to do it, right?
Yeah.
And just gone out, that would have been hypocrisy. They would probably have taken less damage there. It's the fact that they're hiding it. It's the fact that they know it's wrong and they're going to do it anyways. And it's the fact that they're elites who get away with this shit when the rest of us could never get away with it. It's not really about hypocrisy. It's about a power imbalance. And I think that's what's missing here. And I think that's what often gets confused. The hypocrisy of the situation. And another thing, like, another word for hypocrisy in certain circumstances is just changing your mind and evolving your views, right? I don't know that the notion that politics, like the worst thing in politics is hypocrisy is just nonsense.
Okay, you're hung on the frame. Okay, I relinquish for a second. Tell me about the political price though. To Carter's point, do you think they'll pay a political price?
Because they will.
Yeah,
because they're a bunch of elites who get to do whatever the hell they want. The rules don't apply to them. They're keeping secrets from us, their bosses, not because of hypocrisy.
Okay, we get it. But you do think they'll pay A steep political price, Corey? Do you feel like it's going to be like if I'm a politician, is this some of the, like one of the things I yeah, okay, interesting.
No, it's like they'll have a moment of contrition. They'll say, I was wrong. I mean, we've seen this show so many times already in COVID. Nancy Pelosi taking her mask off. Yeah, it's just, it'll be a combination of it's gotcha politics and I shouldn't have done that. I'll do better. We all make mistakes.
One guy, Stephen Carter, who does not care about political price is one Rudy Giuliani. Now, this is a gentleman who was in the Michigan House Oversight Committee, brought his star witness, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, seemed like she was drunk,
a little bit,
just a little bit, and was pretty much lecturing state officials on illegals and dead people and voter turnouts of 120%, and of asking people if, of course, representatives, if they'd read the rolls and the books for the voter turnout. Just getting your reaction as to what this carnival looks like right now from your vantage point, and what political damage, if any, do you think it kind of furthers this eroding democracy conversation, which has kind of been the thread of tonight's episode in some way?
Well, it certainly hasn't hurt the Democrats. I mean, one could almost forgive the one woman who was a little intoxicated. I think she was intoxicated. I mean, does anybody dispute the idea that she was absolutely hammered? Like, I just don't think that there was a defense put up. Well, this is a condition. So she was hammered. Then there was the other woman who was talking about a Chinese population that all looked the same. Wow. And so these things aren't hurting the Democrats. The unknown question is it hurting democracy? I think it is. I think that it is sowing distrust in the system that has to be there. I mean, the democratic system is not that much different than the economy. For the economy to work, you have to believe that the economy is working, right? Like, there's a belief element. As soon as you stop believing that the economy is working for you, you stop spending, and guess what? The economy stops working. So this to me is really damaging. I think that it's also tremendously damaging to Rudy Giuliani, who's coming across like a fucking lunatic. And the people he's surrounding himself with, it is embarrassing. What I would like to see with him is not criminal charges, but just simply disbarment, a legal price to pay implemented by his profession. That would make me pretty happy.
Corey, her confidence was otherworldly. She was unbelievably confident. She had no doubt about everything that she saw, everything that she heard, including dead people voting. She was, of course, a contractor with Dominion Voting Systems, or claims to be. But did you catch any of this? And if so, what did you make of it?
I mean, I caught it. I watched some of the clips of it. It was so weird, right? When the one person was saying to her, yeah, but like there wasn't 30,000 people on the voting rolls that weren't there. Oh, what did you do to them? Right? Like, there's no winning in arguments with people like that. It's just no point. It was the most absurd sideshow I've ever seen. And this fundamentally goes back to what I was saying about Donald Trump and his 46-minute tirade. I know that Republicans in increasing numbers are saying something was wrong with this election, but I think that the risk of that bleeding over into the rest of the population has actually gone down because of ridiculousness like this. I don't think that the majority of Americans will be like, man, she makes a good point. Well-reasoned arguments from that woman. Well put. That's not what's happening here. If you were legitimately unsure as to whether this election was handled in a proper fashion, do you think that what the Trump campaign has thrown at you in the past 2 weeks has been like, well, with this preponderance of evidence, I guess I'm on Team Trump now? I don't buy that.
Yeah, and I don't think many people did.
And it's not hypocrisy, Zane.
And I think it's hypocritical for you to say that. But you'll still keep rolling in the money in that Trump email blast that you're going to get. If you've probably got 4 of them during this entire episode, Corey, you should probably should donate to. Let's move it on to our final segment, our overrated, our underrated. Stephen Carter, are you ready?
I could not be more ready. I'm excited.
Fantastic. Corey, which is why I'm starting with you again. This is what I do. We were talking about Pelosi. We were talking about Schumer, how they talked about the spirit of bipartisan compromise. So the question, quite simply, political compromise, overrated or underrated?
I think in general it's overrated, but we might be at a moment in time where it's underrated. There is, there's a pendulum and it swings back and forth on these things. And we may have all retreated to our corners too much. And I can see why, because the liberals were such idiots in the 90s and basically only compromised in one direction and really hurt the working class they were supposed to represent as a result. But we do need to step back from the brink now, and the Republicans need to keep in mind compromise means they come in one direction as well. And if that's the kind of compromise we're talking about, Zain, then I think we need a little bit more of it.
Carter, same question to you. Political compromise, overrated or underrated?
I think that it's overrated insofar as compromise doesn't come up with necessarily the best solution. And I'd like to see some better solutions. Unfortunately, where we are trapped right now, one side seems willing to push further than the other, and it throws everything into disarray.
Carter, I'm going from a very general question to a very specific one, which is asking you to say if this political strategy is overrated or underrated. And that political strategy is Biden asking Fauci to stay on and become his chief medical advisor. So not only is he saying stay on with the COVID task force, become my chief medical advisor as a political strategic move by President-elect Joe Biden, overrated or underrated?
I think it's overrated. I think Fauci sadly is now a spent political force. And that's just too bad. Cause I don't think that he deserves what he was given. I don't think he was deserved the way he was treated. But a large portion of the population is just simply not willing to listen to him anymore. And by choosing this action, you're really putting yourself in a negative spot.
Corey, same question to you on a very specific political move. Biden asking Fauci to stay on and become his chief medical advisor, overrated or underrated?
Overrated. This is just... It's not going to change the course of this disease, and you have actually already named your chief, medical advisor on the same day. So, even if you give him that title, the reality is that's not really the job he has. Keep him doing the job he's doing, and let's thank him for his service, but let's not kid ourselves. He's not really the chief medical advisor.
Corey, I'm going to stick with you on this one. In recent ads in Georgia, both Perdue and Loeffler have actively ensured that Donald Trump is not featured in those ads. Well, partially because I assume that a lot of Donald Trump supporters are now trying to, in the best conspiracy theory of all time, not show up to vote. But the whole concept of running away from your leader, overrated or underrated?
Overrated. The question is he still their leader? Because arguably he is not. He has lost the election, and he is going to be out of office on January 20th.
Once again, Corey on the semantics. I think that's hypocritical. Carter, same question to you. Running away from your leader, whether he is there for 7 weeks or longer. Let me add that caveat, overrated or underrated?
I think it's overrated. I think they really run a tremendous risk of losing. Maybe it's overrated. I don't know. I'm finding the question a little challenging. Bottom line, don't run away from the leader when the leader's more popular than you. Trump is more popular than either of these Senate candidates. And I think that they're hurting themselves.
Last question here. There's an article that came out that said Asian Americans feel like they could be the margin of difference in the Georgia election. So they're organizing and mobilizing as a community, which then brings up the question, mobilizing groups or mobilizing third party groups. Carter, overrated or underrated?
Underrated. I mean, third-party groups just add voices. They have different organizational structures, and there's something called social networks that really are the bonds that link society. Political bonds. I mean, moving away from tribalism for a second, in-group and out-group tribalism, and just looking at, what causes a person to change their mind or what causes a person to shift what they are thinking. That turns out to be being close to a group of people. So when a group of people come out in support of Joe Biden or come out in support against Joe or in support of Trump, that is very strong social signal for the entire group to move that way.
Corey, that same question to you. More specifically, I should have asked it this way to you, Carter, but this identity-based sort of mobilizing of groups. Corey, for you, overrated or underrated?
It's underrated as a political tactic. Affinity doesn't come from a TV ad. Social networks is right. You have a much stronger connection to a number of communities than your political party, and so political parties are wise to make use of those connections.
We will leave it there. That is You the People for this week. My name is Zain Velji. With me, as always, Corey Hogan, Stephen Carter. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next week.
The thing is about hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is when your actions don't align with your moral beliefs. These politicians don't actually believe these rules should apply to them. They know full well what they're doing because they're special. They're different. It's not hypocrisy.
Is it hypocritical that neither Zain nor I were listening?
God, you are so annoying. How do you have any friends? How do you maintain any social contact whatsoever? Jesus Christ.
COVID has been a great leveler for me.
Oh, you were actually recording that. Oh, I didn't see this. I did not know you were recording that.